All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Last News Desk on the Left. I am your host, Mac Hollidan, and of course, we have the usual host. There's a word.
Suspects.
Suspects. Well, I mean, I was trying to come up with something new, but apparently that's not forthcoming. Adam is nominally here, even though his laptop is in the shop.
Yep, home this week.
Yep.
I
And
I
actually,
missed a real keyboard.
and actually, you have better clarity on your phone.
Yeah, yeah.
Kevin is here.
No.
We got Petty Fan.
Uh, me. Who are you?
And the Galax.
As long as the government doesn't ask, I'm here.
Jesus.
I have some people over here off to the side you may want to speak to.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have something that vaguely resembles entertainment in the wings for you. So, Adam, why don't you go ahead and launch us into this?
All right. I mean, there's a lot of avenues we could take this week, but I guess we'll start with not exactly profiles in courage, because we've talked about Senator Manchin before on the program, but
Yeah.
I don't think we've given our proper due to the senior senator from Arizona.
Yeah, I guess technically she is the senior senator from Arizona.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kristen Sinema.
Yeah.
Is it Christian or Kirsten?
It's Kirsten. It's Kirsten.
Kirsten.
It's the freaking spelling. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What was Christian? Anyway, so she's the other pair of.
And he was swallowed by the void.
Oh, Papa.
He's the one that you combine Joe Manchin's name with to get the thing that sounds strangely like a internet animation or association, whatever the fuck thing it is. But yeah, she's the other
Manchinima.
very
Yeah. It sounds like something like when you take video game graphics and make original movies out of it.
yeah.
Machinima.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, why don't you go over the details, Kevin?
Well, I mean, I think it's been pretty clear for a while that the two people who are pretty much making everything frozen in terms of infrastructure is the two people that we've been talking about, Mr. Manchin from West Virginia and Miss Cinema from Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
Cinema has gotten a little bit more publicity lately, although not really because she does not like a camera. Apparently, she doesn't want to talk to people. Unlike Manchin, who you basically hear from every day or every other day at this point.
Well, he thinks he's in charge.
Well, at this point, he kind of is. I mean, practically speaking.
Right.
But we hear from him every other day. He enjoys the gaggles that are coming to him. Meanwhile, with Miss Cinema, that is not the case because she dodges questions, she dodges reporters, she dodges cameras. She only puts out statements on Twitter that are text statements that are pictured or whatever. And we barely hear from her in a one-on-one situation. Basically, the only times we see her are in group settings or when she's on the C-SPAN camera being all cute. And I say that loosely.
Yeah.
So basically, although from from the Beltway tabloids, I guess we could call them now. Through the Beltway tabloids, we can kind of think that she's against pretty much every single thing, and probably would have a lot more to do with killing everything and blowing it all up than Manchin would. Because at least with Manchin, he's putting out at least what he wants, and has kind of telegraphed it louder. Meanwhile, with Cinema, she's like, I don't, I'm not there yet. I'm not there with you. You know where I stand. No, we don't really. And then it all pretty much has come to a head because when she decided after pretty much after firming up the fact that she's holding everything up, She took a flight home. At first, it was because of a doctor's appointment, but in all actuality, um, she went home
No,
because
it was a doctor's appointment at a luxury hotel complex with a.
yeah,
And
she
then,
went to a doctor's appointment, and then 2 days later, she hung out with the donors.
yeah,
Yeah, funny how that
and
works.
then she got so severely booed and harassed, she locked herself in a bathroom somewhere.
Yeah,
Here,
actually, what happened was that first they found her at this place that night, and then the next day they found her. They chased her down to I think it was Arizona State. She was at
uh-huh.
yeah, she was at Arizona State, and they pretty much corralled her into a bathroom because she does not want to talk to anybody but her donors at this moment, which is kind of strange.
Here's the
Like literally,
well,
here's
here's the
the
context. Here's the context.
right ahead.
Cinema, as a state senator, was a greenie. Okay,
Yeah,
she ran on
yeah,
a very liberal, progressive platform, and
yeah.
and then she ran for Senate and won,
Mm-hmm.
and
Uh-huh.
all of a sudden did a complete fucking 180 and became a hard conservative Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
If you can call her a Democrat at all.
At this point, yeah. It's like you
So,
look at the fact that she tweeted about healthcare costs and everything else when she ran for Senate, and right now she's basically saying to Joe Biden, "Don't even think about it."
right. So, the
Which
Arizona
makes
voters are a little tweaked about this to the point to where they would, are fully prepared to start a illegal recall election on her because she completely fucking lied about what it was that she was running on.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the Arizona voters thought that they were putting a progressive candidate into office, and then she became a Republican.
I don't think even a progressive. I think just simply
Well, a somewhat
at
liberal
least,
candidate, They th-
at least a Democrat. At least a Democrat.
mm-hmm.
Like at least someone who could be on the team, be a team player here.
Yeah, and up until Donald Trump, lost his bid for re-election, she kind of was in lockstep with the Democrats, and then all of a sudden she wasn't. And there's a lot of articles about this where they talk about the fact that for some reason she saw what old Joe was doing there in West Virginia
Mm-hmm.
and was using him. She basically attached.
Herself to him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she hitched her train. She hitched her wagon to his star,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like a mutual suicide pact.
Yeah, because and it bugs me because with Manchin, you kind of get it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not going to work for him anyway because he's not going to win 24. But you kind of get it because at the very least he's trying to be closer to his state's politics, which are completely and totally to the right and will never probably go back left again.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, when you're talking with Cinema here, I don't know what she's trying. I mean, she's trying to basically be a Republican. When unfortunately, in order to win, you kind of want to have your base with you. You know,
As
you can't.
it's like I said last week. Arizona is pretty purple right now, and
Oh.
it's pretty clear that within the next couple of election cycles,
Mm-hmm.
Arizona is basically going to be West Coast blue.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that's the demographic because especially since we have a lot of California expats here.
Also, I would also note the Navajo population there too.
Absolutely.
I can also
All
throw that. I can also throw that in there
all
as
of
one of
these
those.
all of these things are a factor. There's a lot
Mhm.
of people making an exodus to here to Arizona because of either high taxes or not able to find jobs or whatever their situation is.
Mhm.
Arizona's got a pretty mild climate as far as the economy goes. We recently raised our minimum wage to $12 an hour, which is actually $1 more than California offers.
There you go.
Our economy is growing. While other places are either standing pat or, everybody keeps talking about how robust the California economy is, but it's like, it depends on which sector you ask.
True.
I'm not saying, I'm not catering to the right-wing talking points. I'm just saying it depends on who you ask. I mean, yes, on paper, California has a robust economy, but it's not working for everybody. I mean, that's just a fact anywhere.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of people making an exodus here to Arizona. So Arizona is growing, and it's becoming a wee bit more liberal. And so
more blue, educated, so on and so forth.
And I gotta say that as tragic as it was that Gabby Giffords was shot, we have to keep in mind the fact that she was also a treacherous blue dog Democrat, and this.
Yeah, she was a conservative before this. Yeah.
Yeah, and Arizona doesn't have a healthy relationship with turncoats.
No.
Firm.
Yeah, we don't like that. We like decisive action. It's very Wild West here. We like people of action. We like people who are decisive. We don't like people who run away and hide in bathrooms when they're confronted by the press. Especially especially when the conservative press of Arizona is the one questioning you on your methods and your ethics.
I mean, this is the thing that bugs me. It's like, I get that you don't want to be a liberal, but at the same time, you don't want to piss off your base.
Right.
That you have a foundation of support. That's your base, right? I mean, she goes around and she wants to claim that she wants to be like John McCain, but see, the thing about McCain is that he could talk with and cozy up to that base when he wanted to. Okay.
Well, and the other thing about McCain is he was installed long enough in his position that he had the clout necessary to do whatever it is that he wanted to do.
Right, and but at the same time, he needed to at least, pretend to talk to the base, like kiss up, but not necessarily, completely overwhelm it. Just go like, that.
Well,
yeah, I know I'm a maverick, but I'm not going to be that big of one.
Well, and he also had the personal infrastructure necessary to achieve his objectives.
That too. Cinema has none of that.
Yeah, she's still, for all intents and purposes, freshman senator.
Yeah, she's green and quite literally, and it's like, if she she thinks that she could just go to them and say, what does she expect to say to the voters? Like, hey, I killed the Democratic president's entire agenda because that old man from Vermont hated me so much, or
it's like, hey, remember all those endless construction projects in Tucson that have completely stifled traffic and movement across the city? Yeah, fuck all that. I'm going to make sure that never gets funded.
Yeah, it's like I I don't want you to get. I promised you better health care and all this type of stuff. Meanwhile, I got a phone call from my buddies at Big Pharma, and they don't like that idea. So you're not getting it.
It's like, it's like Banner's not helpful. Is not happy with the hospital expansions in Pima and Pinal County. So unfortunately, we're going to have to shut the whole fucking thing down.
I mean, it's like she seems to think that what matters most right now is getting a lot of money. Now, sure, maybe her race is going to be one that's going to be hotly contested. And she needs all the money that she can get, but the way to do that is to not take the entire party with you.
Oh my god.
And I get right now that everybody has leverage at this moment. I get it, right? In this moment with this razor-thin majority, everybody has leverage. Everybody. Any one person in the Democratic Party has leverage in this razor-thin situation.
Right, but she's not asking for anything. That's the worst of it.
Yes, but well, publicly she's not asking for it because we don't know what the hell she wants. because she never talks in interviews or on camera. Like rarely ever.
Right, but
We don't know.
you see,
Privately,
Grandpa Joe though is not being quiet about the fact that of who's sabotaging what. See, now
yeah,
he's
but
going on national TV and on Twitter and everywhere else and telling everybody exactly what the score is.
right. I mean, and from what the tabloid, what the Beltway media tabloids are saying, apparently Cinema's done that in private. But that's the thing, in private.
Right.
She's never publicly stated her intentions. She's never publicly said what she's for, what she wants, what she doesn't want, what she hates. She might have said it privately to Biden's face or to Biden over the telephone, but on camera to the public, to the average Arizonan or American voter, we don't know what the hell she is or what she's about. Other than other than her, other than her looks on the Senate floor. So I mean, it's ridiculous that someone who clearly has a lot of power right now is basically like dancing like Fred Astaire away from the public.
Well, the
Like,
worst part about it is I always joked that I had a philosophy that was similar to L. Ron Hubbard's, and that was that if I wanted to make real money, I'd stop writing science fiction and run for the Senate.
I mean,
and that I would go there, and that I would just let everybody else do the work, and then be a one-term senator, and then retire with a fat paycheck.
Interesting use of the civil religion card.
Yeah, well, it's the idea would be that I would get into Congress or I would get into the Senate, and then I would do nothing for a term and then retire with full benefits.
If you manage to dodge the press enough, maybe it'll work.
Right, but it's like hey, Kirsten, did you steal my idea? It's like, did you literally go there to just, hide amongst the flock? To what?
I said must have.
Yeah, because it's like, that's the only thing I can figure. And I said this cynically and humorously, is if for entertainment value. It's like, like I said, if I wanted to make real money, I'd be a one-term senator or a one-term congressperson and not do anything and not necessarily vote for or against anything in particular, and then not run again.
Yeah, just save money off the Senate paycheck, and then take that savings money and
I'd pay off my debts. I'd put some stuff into savings. I'd have full health benefits for life. Who gives a fuck?
yeah. I mean, when you got a lot of loudmouths around you, you could just sit back and hide behind the loudmouths and just rock on and roll about your day, and then
Yeah,
maybe if you decide to push on privately, and then you get caught up, it's like, hey,
but now her plan is thwarted. Because now, because of the razor-thin majority, she's on the spot. She has to actually do something. She has to stand for something. She has to believe in something.
Well, here's the thing, though. She doesn't, even now, she still doesn't have to, because, yeah, she's got Joe to hide behind. She's got Bernie to hide behind. She's got all these loudmouths to hide behind.
Well, apparently not, because the voters are coming for her.
Well, that's because of the fact that she decided to not hide behind Joe, but to be next to him. Or even because of the fact that the Beltway tabloids are around, be in front in private.
Well, I'm just saying that regardless of the reason and regardless of the method, the simple fact of the matter is that her duck and cover routine is no longer working.
No.
Because the voters and the media are coming for her.
Yeah, it's like she doesn't hold any town halls. She doesn't hold any press availabilities on her own, not with somebody else. Right?
Yep.
And if she did those things, and if she took meetings with people, because say what you will about Manchin, at least he's taking meetings with people. Nothing comes of those meetings, and it's just talking for an hour.
Well,
he's talking.
But that's because he's a professional senator. You know, he's
Yeah.
a professional politician. He's one who he was. His plan was to be in it for the long haul. It was never to be. It was never to go there to cynically pay off debt and receive graft.
Or
He's
whatever the hell is going on. Because, we don't even know if it's that.
you know
We don't know what it is.
we don't know, but we don't know what it is, so we can only assume the worst. Is where I'm going with this. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not. Yeah, okay. Just to be clear, I'm not trying to slander anybody. It's like it just seems like a cynical bid. It's like, gosh, I have a lot of debt. What should I do? Ooh, I'll run for Senate.
Yeah.
you know.
You get me.
I got to pay off some stuff, and I hear that insider trading on the Senate floor is apparently legal now. Or something. I don't know what it is.
Or at least it's acceptable, and you can turn the other way.
Right. Whatever the answer is, people's minds are running wild with this right now because
She's not doing anything
right.
to appease anybody.
Or dissuade them from thinking this.
Right. It's like, because see, a lot of this problem, we were talking about, progressives versus moderates. This whole thing is basically has boiled down to progressives feel that moderates and centrists will shut down a key part of the president's agenda because their donors have told them, kill it or we won't give you any money.
Mm-hmm.
And they have done absolutely nothing. The moderates and centrists, Cinema, all of them included, they have done nothing to alleviate that fear, and they need guarantees and commitments here.
It's
right?
like I've said.
And they're not getting it.
It's like I've said all along, and that is that the hard centrists, the hard moderates, and the undecided voters are the ultimate treacherous rocky shoals in any political matter or any election cycle, because it's not the base. It's not the base that's going to destroy you. It's going to be those swing votes that you don't know what they're all about.
Although let's note for this for the record, what we're dealing with here is 2 senators and 9, maybe 10 Congress people. Like, the vast majority of the Democratic Party is on the same page. It's just these 2 senators over here and these 9 or 10 Congress people over here. And it's not just, and when we're talking about moderates and centrists, let's also know that let's note the new Democratic caucus are not the ones who are moderates and centrists themselves, are not the ones out here running around, making policy demands and, trying to, say, hey, look at me, I'm here, So let's keep that in mind here when we talk about all of this at this point. And let's focus on the fact that what we're dealing with here are 9 Congress people who don't seem to understand what the hell they're doing.
Well, like I said, the treachery always comes from the people who are borderline, the people right. that are the fully committed to the cause. You never ever have to worry about those people.
Yeah.
You never have to worry about those people. People who say, I'm a liberal and I'm proud, that I'm a progressive and I'm proud, I'm a greenie, whatever, you know where they stand. Everybody else who's like, well, let's try to hear it from the other side and maybe we'll work something out. Those are the people that are always going to stab you in the fucking back.
Yes. I mean, it's like,
all right, we've got control now. Well, hold up a minute now. We've got to do responsible governance.
Well, I suppose that's kind of the problem here. Manchin is, if nothing else, earnest in his viewpoints and demands. It's consistent, not what people want, but I can't say that he's full of shit.
Right,
on what
but
he
I don't. But
believes.
you see, I'm not lumping him in the treacherous crowd because he's very clear on what he wants, and he was clear beforehand. We knew where he stood. It's this other sort of silent cloud that represents that weird 41% of the electorate that we never know which way they're going to swing. The one in 2016 they voted for Donald Trump, God damn them, and then in 2020 they went back for Biden. So it's like,
right.
It's like,
it's also you play the game with the hand you got, and
the thing about it is that you kind of have an idea of what the hand you got is, but then when you try to play it, it's like, well, there's our new game. Then it's like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Well, it's also I suppose we should talk a bit about the leverage maneuvering that happened in the last week, because it was actually a pretty good turn of events for the Progressive Caucus. Like, if only because for the first time in a long time they stood their ground.
Yeah.
Because the expectation from everybody, especially you fucking Gadamer, like, I'm glad he got dragged so much for that champagne thing. Like, you
Yeah.
don't, you don't fucking celebrate until,
Let's make clear about who we're talking about here, because people are like, wait, Gadamer, who's that?
yeah,
This is the House. This is the leader of the. I was talking about earlier about the 9 or 10 House Democrats that are basically doing the same thing that Machinima are.
Right.
He's the leader of the bunch, and he pretty much is the one that tried to force a vote on the bipartisan infrastructure package on September 27th, because we need to win now. And you know, kind of don't know about this reconciliation bit here. We need a lot more time on that. So let's just get this and get the win right now, and maybe you'll get him. Maybe you'll get this reconciliation package later. This
So
despite
he
the fact that the entire party, Manchin included, in July, when the deal for the bipartisan package was put forward, we were all on the same page that this was going to be a parallel track with both the reconciliation package and the infrastructure package. And they were both going on a parallel track, and that they would pass pretty much around the same time. Maybe not exactly the same, but around the same time. Meanwhile, you have Gottheimer and his 9, and then also Manchin, on the other hand, decided to go, maybe not so much. And back where we started back in June.
Yep.
And that's why we are where we are. And on the House side of things, Gottheimer is the leader of that bunch, and Gottheimer was part of that plot.
Well, I suppose it's important to clarify where we're at, where we actually are, and that is, well, the real negotiations have begun.
And hopefully they have not been undermined over the course of the last few days.
I haven't heard anything to that effect. Like, there's.
Who knows what the hell Cinema is going to do with everything that's happened to her? Might decide to go, oh my god, what's on?
Probably nothing. Like,
I hope
that
not.
would.
I hope not. I'm not saying I hope for that. I don't.
She's not one to take the initiative. Like, if Manchin isn't doing it, she's not going to do it.
Yeah.
Like, and Manchin, the talks are ongoing, and it looks like they're zeroing in on, well, quite frankly, where a lot of people think they're going to end up, and that's $2 trillion.
2 trillion, 2-1, 2-2.
But they still have to go through all the steps.
Right.
Yes.
And just make sure it takes so long that we definitely have some problems with the fucking federal budget and shit, because people won't agree on anything.
You're talking about separate things.
I know, but they can only work on so many things at a time.
Of course, here is going to be that sacrifices are going to have to be made. And those sacrifices are going to piss a lot of people off.
It's
because unfortunately, that's the way we're having it right now. But
yeah, I'm like, if you want to, Manchin himself said it as much. If you want more liberal policies, vote for more liberals.
Pretty much.
It's like, and this is where I've had the problem with some of the progressives' thinking process. Primarying Sinema and Manchin. Okay, first of all, their elections are 4 years away, so
they're not going to happen until 2025.
Yeah, they're going to be headaches for a while, but the easier solution is not getting rid of them; it's making them irrelevant. you get more fucking Dems in the Senate, then we don't have to fucking listen to them because, oh, hey, you're going to vote against it? Well, who cares? We got 2 fucking votes to replace you. That's how this situation resolves. That's the only way this resolves because midterms are next year.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So, you know, it's like, I get it. You know, you're pissed off at these 2 people. We all are. But there are actual solutions here. Primaries, it's a solution down the line at best.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Onion is pilfering my ideas once again and moving and suggesting that liberals move into red states.
I'm like,
The only problem with that is that it won't have any effect until fucking 2030.
Yeah, no, it's just funny that they're pilfering my ideas now. I'm putting out articles saying that they should take those oat milk drinking liberals and send them to Nebraska.
Oh no, yeah, never mind. The voting changes.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I've heard this idea talked seriously, and yeah, it's because, you know, people complain about the Senate all the time about how it's, you know, not representative or whatever, and it's by design. Yes.
Yep.
You know, all the legacy thing. Here's the thing about that. That's never gonna fucking change. They designed it to be that way. The Senate was, you know.
Well, and frankly, a constitutional amendment that works against the Senate's interests is never going to pass.
No. So
it's never even going to be initiated, let alone pass.
You know, and having more blue ticks in red places isn't the worst fucking idea for a few reasons, quite frankly. Like, I mean, but anyway,
flip Texas, and we're on the way. You know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Flip
and
Texas.
I suppose we should also address the other bit of brinkmanship that happened, and has abated for now, and that's debt ceiling. It's off the table. The fucking turtle blinked.
Until December.
Until December, but make no
mistake. It's a movement considering how he was stonewalling before.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, he had no good moves left, quite frankly.
Yep.
Like, because his suggestion of using reconciliation wasn't really an option in terms of practicality, because it's not just, they can put it in reconciliation and it passes. No. There's a whole process. There are amendments that have to be voted on. It's a process that will actually take a while. And, it's a process that would have happened while a default would have occurred. And, basically, and it's also, Mitch was fucking with the money. Like, we had like the top bankers meeting with Biden. What was it, today or yesterday?
Yesterday. It was.
That was a pretty clear message that your business buddies aren't fucking happy with you, because the U.S. defaulting on its obligations is a unthinkable catastrophe. And I'm not even joking here. Like, this is a thing that if it were to ever happen, it would, let's say, a repeat of 2008, maybe worse. Like, and the turtle got boxed in. Yeah, it's for right now. It's for December, but he lost this round. I'm not exactly sure what he's got. What would make it where he'd have more leverage in December?
Right.
Like,
amusingly, there are some really good anti-Republican based lines I've thought of that you could use for arguing that they should be for raising the debt limit when you're talking about like because it's really about like managing the integrity of the full faith and credit of the United States and doing stuff like paying the troops.
Yeah. Stuff like that, yes.
Well,
I mean,
at least the active duty ones, they don't really give a shit about the ones who are no longer in
Yeah.
uniform.
well, let's be clear here.
That's a huge chunk of the budget, and that's one of the things that could potentially be cut if we can't.
Okay. How
I know it would. Okay, not realistically, but possibly.
Yeah, no. We are never cutting the defense budget.
No.
I'm like, I wouldn't mind seeing it being reduced, but it's never gonna fucking happen. I'm
No.
like, the squad found that one out.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't actually talk about it, but the squad actually launched a bunch of initiatives, like the Iron Dome thing, which, ironically enough, is now being held up by the fucking traitor, Josh Hawley.
Is it? No, I thought it was Paul.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Forgive me if I get traitors Republicans mixed up.
Well, the point's the same. The point's the same.
It's like, Rand Paul's holding it up, which is, like I said, that's a weird horseshoe theory there.
Well, it makes more sense because people with libertarian mindsets are more apt towards anarchy anyway.
I know. Like, fucking libertarians. Like,
Right with the anarchy. Yeah. There you go.
yeah. But anyway, no, the defense budget is never going to go down. That's just not how politics in this country works.
Nope.
And besides, like, the defense budget isn't even the biggest part of our budget, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
We spend the most on actually entitlements, Social Security, that kind of thing. Granted, it's non-discretionary, but still, it's a lot larger than people think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's weird because it's one of those things that's supposed to be paid for up front by the taxes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not an allocation. That's why a lot of people question the efficacy of using the term entitlement for those programs, is because it's not new money. Defense spending is new money. That is a 100% loss at all times.
Yep.
So if we were a business, it would be red on the ledger. Whereas Medicare and Social Security, some of it, but not so much. Like the federal government does not necessarily put up a bond for the full amount.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And this indeed gets into what the whole debt ceiling crises, with quotes, is all about. Because, all of this is theoretically supposed to be paid in taxes, but realistically, it is not.
Correct.
So, the U.S. government borrows.
Right. Especially when you consider that one political party in this country is vehemently anti-tax.
Right, but point it is, usually there's not enough tax revenue to cover the, that budget until later. And that's where the debt ceiling comes into. There's only so much the U.S. can borrow at any given point.
Right.
And that leads into why this is such a manufactured crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, this is basically the way it's evolved is that it's a situation where the Republicans can basically spend all the money they want.
At the very least, it has been knocked down to another Christmas thing, so the Dems are free and clear to get down to worrying about passing all the infrastructure stuff without having to think about the budget and the debt ceiling for a couple months.
Yeah.
And, that's pretty pivotal because the new deadline for the budget, for the infrastructure stuff is now, October 30th or 31st?
End of the month, 31st. Pretty much, practically.
No. Did I get cut off?
No, you can get cut off. It's like, practically, it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. And, let me see here. We also have been having the January 6th commission roll onwards. and there's something I wanted to address here because they've been starting to issue subpoenas. And
Isn't there somebody missing?
yeah, they're like one of one of Trump's aides is literally disappeared, so they can't currently serve a subpoena because they don't know where they are, which is actually not that unusual when it comes to having subpoenas served.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah. I think we saw a congressman have to deal with that earlier.
I think this is a standard issue mob move.
yeah, but that does get into what's different between now and when Congress was issuing subpoenas for impeachment and whatnot. It's because the people who are in charge of the executive branch are different, because for whatever reason, like the House would not use its inherent contempt protocols to enforce those subpoenas, so they didn't have any. They had no backing behind it,
Right.
so people were just free to ignore them. This time, the Biden administration is in control of the Department of Justice, which is the typical enforcer of these things. So, and they're probably interested in enforcing these subpoenas. So if people get a criminal referral on these, they can expect some actual fucking legal action this time. I'm like, I'm not saying it's 100%, but I do have to clarify that. Remember, when the impeachment stuff was going on, Trump was in charge of the DOJ. So it's not a fucking surprise that, that shit didn't get enforced.
Yeah, Merrick Garland is not Bill Barr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank God.
So.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So wondering, okay, if they don't show up or else actual people will, do things.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
There'll be a few no-knock raids.
Yeah, speaking of which, apparently, fucking police union got that to,
Yeah. Ed Mullins, who was, I got it. Ed Mullins, who was the head of the New York Police, the New York PD, the NYPD union, who is he's a
QAnon. Yeah, he's part of QAnon.
Yeah, he's a Q nut. He got a visit from the FBI, and to say that the union told him to get the F out now.
There's some union.
Yeah, blah blah blah. You deserve benefit of the doubt. Innocent until proven guilty. Yada yada yada. Get out of here. Get out of here. Go.
A police union just got raided. That's something that doesn't happen unless there's a reason for it to happen.
Oh yeah.
Well,
it's also weird to see union busting I can get behind.
Yeah. It's like
a certain irony.
Yeah, I am a head. Yeah, we're all heavy pro-union guys here, but when it comes to cop unions, maybe you need to rethink this a little bit.
Yeah, speaking of union watch,
it's not the fact that it's a union. It's the fact that it's how they operate.
Yes.
Right.
They operate more like a criminal organization than an actual union is supposed to.
Yeah.
I mean, not that Teamsters notwithstanding.
Well, I mean, it's still act like a union in the fact that they
classic Teamsters, not the modern ones. We don't want any slander letters.
Right, the mob era. But they kind of act like a union though because they do protect their own. It's just that the ones that they do protect are, well.
Well, it's the circumstances. It's a type of job to where they're not actually allowed to strike. So you have the blue flu. There's a lot of things that are enshrined in law that makes the circumstances different. Is all I can say.
Yeah.
And when they create the blue and when they erect the blue wall,
right.
It's not like when Communication Workers of America, a member of the AFL-CIO, I might add, go on strike. They don't get the same response. It's not the same. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, right. Before the show started, this broke. SB 8 is temporarily blocked.
Oh,
Temporary
Yep.
is the word. That
still,
was, of course,
still, that's more than was expected.
right. Right.
The judge was very, very
Not too
blunt.
happy. Not too
Yeah,
happy.
like calling it flagrantly and repeatedly unconstitutional.
Also gave some nice shade to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I'm like,
Basically
Yeah.
said some other courts may not want to talk about, might not want to tackle this, and leave it to others. I'm putting my foot down. Get out of my courtroom.
yeah. So that's blocked for the moment. I'm sure we'll revisit it, when it hits the appeals court and that whole process. But in Union Watch, there is a union thing that isn't IETC to talk about here, and that is, and you probably didn't hear about this, Kellogg's workers are on strike.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Right. Yeah.
Now this is the this is
They say they're angry about the company's serial offenses towards.
Jesus Christ, dude. Serial get the fuck out of here. Serial offenses? I'm going to stop you right there.
Please do.
Will you throw him into the sun?
Look, it's like jokes like that, they're great.
Okay. Yeah.
We could have done
But-
that, man.
Okay, but what they are,
You know.
what they're
I'm probably
striking
going to
over
get a letter now because because isn't Frosted Flakes actually General Mills?
No, Kellogg's Frosted Flakes.
Oh, thank
yeah,
God.
it's like
Thank God.
no.
Thank
Yeah.
God.
Anyway, so what's going on at Kellogg's is they're apparently trying to move a lot of these jobs to Mexico, among your usual pay disputes and whatnot. And so, I think all Kellogg's workers are on strike, or a large part of the workforce is on strike right now. So,
Let me look up and see, because there are specific plants that we're talking about here.
right. But the point of order is do not buy Kellogg's for the time being.
Yes, General Mills, Big G and Post for the foreseeable future.
I'll continue buying. I'll continue buying my bagged cereal at the dollar store.
There you go. There you go. The specific plants we're talking about here are in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Memphis, Omaha, Nebraska, and Kellogg's home city of Battle Creek, Michigan.
Yep.
These are from specifically the Bakery, Confectionery, Crafters, and Grain Millers International Union. Locals 374G in Lancaster, 252G in Memphis, 3G in Battle Creek, and 50G in Omaha.
Yep.
And we'll give the full shout out there to them. So that's not full, basic, because we're talking about 1,400 specifically workers here. 1,400.
Yeah, and just keep in mind, this is hardly the first strike of this type that happened recently. I don't think we mentioned Nabisco workers went on strike recently.
Yeah, this is the exact same union fact.
Yep.
This is the exact same dealing with them.
Minus perhaps overt threats to fucking replace you with Mexicans who work for less to all of their workers.
But specifically, welcome to Strike-tober, ladies and gentlemen, because we also have other strikes going on. We have a mine strike going on. We have a hospital strike in, I think it's New York. And there's also the taxi strike that's possible at any freaking time. So, we in Strike-tober, folks.
It's almost like people are sick of the shit wages and being treated like shit, and are finally realizing that, you guys, you actually have some power.
Yeah, it's more the latter. See,
there you go.
Pandemic has done,
Enjoy.
What this pandemic has done is, gotten people to understand that, wait a minute, because they spend a lot of time working from home, and it's like, wow, this actually feels nice.
Enjoy that ridiculous graphic I just put up, by the way.
It's like,
Oh, yep, there it is.
I mean,
I won't.
But,
I won't
yeah,
leave
like-
it up for long because I don't know who to credit it to. So there you go.
people,
Continue.
but yeah, people have understood, just wondered, hey, wait a minute. I don't have to work for shit money. I don't have to work in a shit environment where people hate me, whether it's my clientele / customers, whether it's my coworkers, whether it's my fucking bosses. And, I actually have power here to say, wait a minute, I want a better working condition. I want to be fucking paid. And it turns out that there are actually some unions around who actually give a shit and, don't, cater to their bosses and their bosses or whatever. But there are actually unions around here that actually give a shit about this and are acting accordingly. Or, at the very least, there are these unions who have, in the past, been like, yeah, whatever. But now it's like, the workers are like, fuck this bullshit, act for us, please. And it's like, okay, fine. Because a lot of the problems that we've been having in this country is because of the fact that unions have gone down, and it's for a lot of different reasons. And maybe if people understand the power of unions to actually benefit people, maybe things can turn around. Because a lot of the reasons why the Democrats are in trouble is because the unions have went away because Republicans played the greatest trick of all time in claiming that they're for, the working man, when in all actuality they're not. And because they're not, they write these right to work laws that kill unionization, and well, here we are.
Yep.
So, what the pandemic has done has made people reevaluate a lot of things, and it's scaring a lot of people.
Also, guess what? This happens after, like, every pandemic.
Pretty much, yeah. If you think about it, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of the, communist, socialist stuff from the 20s and 30s, well, it came right after a major global pandemic. So,
Oh, you should have seen what happened after the Black Death.
Oh
Like,
God.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Like,
So, it's like it's all happening right now, and it's going to be very interesting to follow it over the next couple of months because I'm pretty sure that there's going to be more.
yeah, I'm like, I would be hard pressed to disagree with that since I've been seeing more and more strikes. I know they're not reported on because the corporate media isn't going to really report on that for obvious reasons, but the word gets out. I'm like, like, this is where social media is actually really important because this is where I hear about this.
Unless you're Facebook.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other conversation in a minute.
Yeah. I guess we do have to talk about Facebook because, there's this whistleblower who's been testifying in front of Congress about the, evil procedures Facebook does.
And then the mysterious blackout yesterday.
Right.
Apparently, the structure of the blackout yesterday apparently is no longer that mysterious, but the reason or cause of how that happened is still a little bit up in the air. Some chucklefuck deleted part of their routing.
Yeah, basically, for all intents and purposes, for a couple of hours, Facebook did not exist.
Yeah, they basically shredded the map to Facebook on the internet.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's basically, for a couple of hours, Facebook wasn't just down, like, okay.
And it wasn't just Facebook. It was Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp.
Right.
But
Those are all together.
Right. Well,
Right.
but they are
Now,
separate.
see-
They are separate programs. They're just under the same umbrella.
And they're on
Right.
the same servers. Now, normally, the problem that happened would actually be very easy to fix. You just have someone go to the server and do it. Unfortunately, the door to the server room, the door to the wing of the building the server room was in, and the door to the building the servers are in, were all controlled by security that was routed through Facebook.
Out of 10.
Because Silicon fucking Valley.
So they had to bring in some lockpickers, and by lockpickers I mean at least one of them had an angle grinder.
Can we note for the record that this is a $1 trillion company that has pretty much a third of the world using its service? Can we note that, please?
You know, noted author and screenwriter David Gerald had some commentary about the size of Facebook and breaking it up, or people talking about breaking it up, and he said that's not really the solution, but they could use moderation, and he brings up the old nugget CompuServe because he's a crusty old fucker like me, although a little bit more eld than I.
There's a name that people, not people only 96 kids somewhat get.
But what I was commenting on was the fact that, yeah, okay, but you're talking about several orders of magnitude larger. You can't just, it's like, how many moderators can they hire to fix this? I said, you see, the problem is moderation outside of using robots is no longer a immediate viable fix for the problem, because CompuServe had maybe 50 million users, whereas Facebook has
moderators on Facebook would require probably millions of man hours per day.
Well, yeah, exactly. The point, I mean, it's like, how many moderators can you hire to moderate, what, 2.5, 2.7 trillion users?
Maybe you hire one based per region, one for the United States, one for Canada and Mexico, one for South America.
No, but the point is, do they actually have enough liquid assets in order to bring to onboard this much personnel?
You're talking about paying your personnel, Mac? That sounds like socialist work.
I know, right? I'm fucking crazy, obviously. It's like because I'm thinking about this in terms of how they used to do it in the beginning when they had actual live moderators before the bots did it. They were all volunteers.
Right.
Yeah, they used to. There was a time when places like DeviantArt and Facebook and Twitter and all of these things had quote unquote volunteer mods, and then all of a sudden they went public, and that was illegal.
Right.
That's one of the benefits of being a private corporation is that you can have interns that don't quite fit the definition of the term.
Right.
Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had a barter system in place. There was a system for that, and then one day they went public, and that was no.
Yep. Pretty much.
So then they basically got rid of all the moderators and replaced them with robots that do asinine stuff like, I don't know, threaten me with cancellation for hate speech because I quoted a line from Home Alone.
Yeah, computers don't know shit.
And of course, we couldn't talk about social media without talking about the Twitch hack, since we are now on this platform.
Yeah. Somebody decided that, they wanted to take the entire source code and history of Twitch.tv, dating back to even before it got bought by Amazon, and became this big colossal thing that we
good old Justin TV.
Yeah, remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so now everybody and their mama has to use two-factor authentication.
Yeah, well, What is this Authy thing? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know, it's just an app that's taking up cycles on my phone. It's been slower. I can't play AFK Arena now. I need to get my Raid Shadow Legends on, and this Authy thing keeps popping up.
Everybody knows.
I'll be expecting my check. I'll be expecting my 25-cent check in the mail. Thank you very much.
So everybody knows the source code. Hi, Jeff. Hi, whoever's running Twitch. You got a problem with that? Everybody knows how much money is made by Twitch, and the other kind of things you can give them a hack when it comes to docs.
My only problem with this is that we always have this kind of romanticized image of hackers as being Robin Hood figures, where they're robbing from the rich and and giving to the poor. And in this particular case, this thing will not only hurt the rich, but it will also hurt the poor.
But let me note for the record that the reason why this hacker did it was to foster competition in the space. So basically,
which is fucking ironic because no competitor is going to ever touch this source code with a 10-foot pole.
Nope.
Well, God, no.
There's already.
They will not. They will be fucking sued up the ass, and they will lose.
Well,
you do not touch proprietary source code like this.
Well, there's already another. I can't remember the name of it now, but I ran across it not that long ago, and I wish I kept the tab open. But there's already a website that looks like a total top-to-bottom clone of Twitch that's basically a gaming website. There is other competition out there. There is competition in the space. There are other streaming services. So it's like
that's not what I'm talking about.
No, I get that, but I'm saying there's no need for them to ever go near the source code because they've got their own thing already.
But I'll say this also: legitimate people and people with sense won't touch this. You know as well as anybody else that there are people out there who do not give a damn about legitimacy and who do not give a damn about common sense and will do it.
Well, this goes back to what I was talking about, but this goes back to what I was talking about, it hurting the little guys, because if they take this source code, then, what kind of information do they have? Do they have our financial information? Do they have our home address? What do they have? Because when you do a scoop and dump like this, there is no discrimination between private information and public information.
Yeah.
So it's like, do I have to worry now? Do I have to go and apply for a new social security number? What's the deal here? What's the story?
Right. So, but yeah, I mean,
that's the worrisome part.
Yeah. But somebody is going to do exactly what the hacker wants with what he or she did with it. I mean,
yeah,
somebody's going to. You can say that nobody's going to. Somebody's going to, because that's the way this works. Sure, people with common sense and people with who don't want to lose their house and home. They're not going to touch this. But somebody's going to, or some people are going to.
I mean, there's people.
They probably try to by not looking like a Twitch clone, but simply like a carbon copy, but basically going by Price is Right rules, where basically you look as close enough to Twitch without being completely looking like Twitch.
Right, and what I was saying was there's already websites that look like this.
Right, but of course, and also the thing is that you could possibly do it by looking like Twitch before it got bought by Amazon. Let's be frank. Maybe that's what happened. That it looks like Twitch pre-Amazon.
Which is a cool nostalgia piece, but I don't know how valuable it actually is.
Well, what? Who's to say that they would care about value? No. Or maybe they do care about value, but it's more if we look like old Twitch and we get people to come to a site that looks and feels and acts like old Twitch, it'll come up that way. I mean,
well, to be clear, there is no old Twitch. It was Justin TV until Amazon bought it, and then they rebranded it as Twitch.
Wait, Amazon rebranded it as Twitch? I thought it was Twitch, and then Amazon bought it, and it became Amazon Twitch.
I'm pretty sure that's not the case. Justin TV was bought by Twitch and rebranded.
Live.
Anyway, in the entertainment file this week, I guess we should start with Seinfeld.
You're right.
Well,
it was Twitch TV was founded as a separate gaming content section on Justin TV.
Yeah.
Yep. It was. Yeah. Yep. Mhm.
Anyway.
So.
Well, there you go. We answered it in one broadcast.
There you go. And I was the winner of the bet. Anyway,
so Seinfeld on Netflix. in case you have not heard, people are up in arms about it.
What? Outrage against Seinfeld? I can't imagine this.
Not against the person for once.
I-
Not against the show either. It's more, well, it's kind of against the show, but because of the fact that aspect ratio.
Yep.
I heard they
That's always
changed
a
it.
bugaboo, isn't it?
Didn't they change it? Didn't they somehow change it?
Yes. Yes, but okay. Here's the thing.
Yep. Well,
The
how do you make standard aspect ratio things widescreen?
You stretch it out, and thus you cut the top and the bottom parts of the screen.
Well,
Holy
either
fuck,
of those. You
Yeah.
either trim the top and bottom, or you like stretch it like
Yeah.
the ugly way.
In this case, they cut the top and bottom, and people have been combing through the episodes. Like a specific episode mentioned was the pothole, because with the cropping, the actual pothole doesn't appear in the show anymore. Now, by the way,
There's another problem here, not just the aspect ratio, but also the film quality is enhanced, and usually that's fine, but
well, the film quality thing is, there was only so much they could do because we are talking about a sitcom from the 90s.
Right.
Yes, it was filmed on 35 millimeter, so they could actually upscale that. But, it's like that was always going to look not great
Yeah.
unless they were willing to, like, put some serious money behind it. And they, in fairness, they could, but,
Right.
who's really going to invest in remastering a sitcom? Like, how good can Seinfeld really look?
There's a reason that they did not continue going back to the original 35 millimeter masters for Star Trek: The Next Generation, aside from the fact that after season 4 they did not have 35 millimeter masters anymore because they were all on digital tape, which has actually been a thing since 1969.
Right.
But the season 1 DVD set was so expensive because of that remastering from the actual physical master reels, that they couldn't do it again. It was physically impossible.
Yeah. Granted, Star Trek, like Deep Space Nine, desperately needs a fucking remastering. Oh my god.
Well, except they can't do it unless they completely reconstruct the graphics because it was created on lightwave stations at 480.
I know. I know, but it's like, it's just, it's an effects-heavy show versus, Seinfeld. It's a fairly typical looking sitcom of the 90s.
It's also the redheaded stepchild of the Star Trek franchise because
Seinfeld?
No,
I'm kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. Because Ira Stephen Bear is treated like the black sheep of the producers of those series because he dared to give the double middle finger salute to Rick Berman on a regular basis.
And God bless him for that.
God bless him, because the show was better for it.
Oh yeah.
It actually took risks, whereas Star Trek Voyager.
I know. I lived through both of those series.
Oh yeah,
in the 90s.
What are you talking about? Captain Janeway side?
Yeah. Voyager.
To put it into anime parlance.
Yeah. The series where nothing fucking happened. But anyway, this isn't about Star Trek. This is about Seinfeld.
Right.
And it's the weird inverse of a problem we had a couple decades ago. Back when like DVDs were being introduced to the masses, and they're like, "What are these bars on the bottom and the top of my screen? I don't want that. Never mind that ruined the fucking picture." By zooming in and panning and scanning, it's like,
Yeah, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
yeah. And we got the
entire history of Hollywood. We have had this conversation multiple times. Remember the conversation about coloring?
Yeah. That being said, I can 100% tell you that this was probably a decision made by like Sony or one of the production companies, not Netflix, because first of all, these episodes were like this on Hulu. They've been like this since the HD version, but it's also I'm watching a couple other less than classic sitcoms. I mean, is Saved by the Bell a real classic? Like,
Well,
point.
a certain group of people, yeah, it's not everybody, but it's for some people.
Yeah, though I don't know who would consider Major Dad to be a classic. Like, that's just
What we need a
more like-
remaster of Evening Shade.
My point is,
in honor.
Both of those are on Netflix, and they are in their original aspect ratios.
Right.
Yeah.
They look also terrible, like especially Major Dad. Holy shit, that is blurry. Like, but you know, like I said, I've seen enough, 4:3 aspect ratio shows on Netflix to know it's not necessarily them. It could. Granted, they paid a lot of money for the Seinfeld rerun, so they want it that way.
Yeah.
But it's like they could do this. It's not like the Simpsons thing on Disney Plus, where that service was literally not designed with 4:3 in mind. And they actually had to change the entire thing to get, the original aspect ratio of the Simpsons classic episodes there.
Do a separate, option feature that you had to go through.
Yeah.
But it's one of those little things that's not so little when you know what's going on.
It's just strange because Netflix, Paramount Plus, all of the different going back to the Star Trek thing. When Star Trek Remastered came out, it was still in 4:3 aspect ratio. And
right,
because the live action footage could not be magically expanded, and the fans would not tolerate a stretch.
Even if you were able to magically stretch that, what you would have seen is set. Like, the thing was literally filmed to be in a square box.
Yeah. I mean, if you stretch out certain video, it's not going to look good. It's going to look ugly.
Yeah. It's like we don't want to lend credence to the idea that William Shatner was fat during the filming of the original Star Trek by stretching him.
Yeah. People still look fat. People's faces are going to be like,
what's this word heavy? Is there something wrong with the gravitational pull of the Earth in 1985? Is there something wrong with the gravitational pull of the Earth in the future?
Yeah.
Anyway,
how come these old timey films are moving so fast?
Why is my old black and white film now completely in color and looking off gaudy as hell? What the?
Oh boy.
Because before there was the aspect ratio and video quality thing is the new coloring, in my opinion.
Yeah. Like.
Yeah, and my opinion is, if it was made to be black and white, it should stay in black and white. It was made to be 4:3. I don't care what you think. You keep it in 4:3, you figure out what to do with it. Unfortunately, in some cases, it's hard to do because of certain decisions.
Well, we'll see if the outrage is enough to get proper aspect ratios on Seinfeld. I guess on the other...
Or that 5 DVDs.
Yeah, I guess in other Netflix news, Squid Game. Like, I don't know if it...
Is that what it's called? I thought it was called something else, but...
well...
That's the Korean one, which, to paraphrase a post I saw on Tumblr or something, wait, you mean when everybody's talking about Squid Game, they're not talking about Splatoon?
No, like, in actuality, it's apparently a kid's game that was first popularized in the 70s and the 80s.
Oh, boy.
Like, it's just apparently this thing is on its way to become the most viewed thing on Netflix ever. Like...
Hey, I mean... It's something new and different.
Yeah, I think people don't really understand that Netflix is kind of the platform for that. I mean, not in every case, but, Netflix is really the streaming service out there that doesn't have a legacy behind it. not like Disney or Paramount or Universal. Like, they, if they're gonna drag a classic IP out of the fucking dirt, which they have, like say Unsolved Mysteries, they just randomly decided to revive that. So, or He-Man or She-Ra, Transformers, they're no strangers to it, but those aren't their properties. Their properties are all new things. From Orange is the New Black, BoJack Horseman to Bridgerton. Although actually that one was based off of a book. Still, it's not pre-made old stuff most of the time. Now, granted, I don't find Squid Game as refreshing as some people do, if only because the Battle Royale thing, it's been a thing for a few decades. Like, I've seen anime had its, term with it. For fuck's sake, this isn't even the first Korean live-action show I've seen do this. Sweet Home. It's actually pretty good. Then there was a Japanese one, Alice in the Borderlands. Though I think the thing that's making Squid Game stand out is the costumes. Those red suits. Expect to see a lot of those for Halloween. And I think that's about it for this week's episode. At least all that we care to talk about.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much ran the gamut.
Yeah.
Indeed. A couple of channel notes here. I'm actually in the process of converting a roughly hour-long video that I made for Genshin Impact. My plan is to start playing Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap tomorrow at roughly 6 p.m. Pacific time. However, there is no guarantee that I will find all of the components of my hardware necessary to make this run. I've been kind of having an off week or an off year or an off lifetime. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how far this extends, but it could go back to my origins as the problem. But there is a small uncertainty factor as to whether or not I'll actually be able to start tomorrow because I've had a loss of focus this week. So at the very minimum, there will be a Genshin Impact rerun, new content tomorrow at approximately 6 p.m. Pacific time. But if I do get all the hardware together tonight and get everything tested before I go out to work, then I should have the beginning of the second weekly installment of Mac Paladin's Retro Gaming Emporium starting tomorrow. So that's scheduled for 6 p.m. Pacific time, but it's not actually on the physical schedule yet. But this is the thing we talked about like last week and the week before, I believe. So I have to locate my GameCube, the power supply, the game cartridge, and the disc for the Game Boy Advance player. And my capture device is sitting on the floor right here next to me, so that part is not a problem.
That's good.
Yep. So I just figured I'd give everybody an update on that. We're actually working on 3D models for the Galahad film, and I'm in negotiations with one of my writer friends to actually help us with the screenplay. So, but I can announce this. Morgan Berry is officially signed to play Commodore Melissa Cobalt in the film. So we have a lead actor. Now it's a matter of putting together character art for the other main characters. So that's where we are with that, and I suspect that once we get this proof of concept stuff out of the way, we're actually going to resume working on the Death of Perseus film, which has been a 5-year-long labor of love. That we love to hate. So that's it for studio news. Join us again next week for episode 20 of season 2, as we rapidly barrel along towards the end of this season. Hopefully, we'll have an infrastructure deal in place before season 2 ends, because otherwise, we won't be starting season 3 for quite some time, if I'm not mistaken.
Huh. Really?
It had been contemplated, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because we do want to coincide season 3 with the beginning of
Format readjustment.
format readjustment and the new Moonhawk Studios presents.
Right.
So, which I'm thinking more of as a revival than calling it Redux, because I hate saying that.
So, MSP 2.0?
It would actually be MSP season 13, and believe it or not,
Yeah, there you go.
with a new with elements of new and old brought back into the fold.
Right, so stay tuned. We might have something for that within a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
My
All right. So, until next time, I am your host, Mac Paladin, on behalf of the crew at the last news desk on the left. I almost said the old show name.
Oh, no.
I mean, it's not inaccurate, but
But,
yes. But on behalf of the crew at last news desk on the left, thanks for watching. Stay safe out there, kids.
mask up and backs up, y'all.